Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this on Sunday, the 2nd of November in the year 2025 in wonderful, lovely Escazú, Costa Rica. And lots going on this week, okay? But first, I want to remind everyone that I am having an event this week, and it is a Q&A, Ask Deb Anything, this Wednesday, the 5th of November, and it would be 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. my time now that we have Daylight Savings Time finished. But it is only $25. You can come and have a lively conversation with me and other people that will be attending and ask me anything about astrology, astrocartography, energetics, meditation, quantum field, my Reiki that I do, my mentoring, my new vision system, or anything else that you can think of. That's related to what I do, of course. So I invite you to that. You can sign up for this on my website, thegoldenastrologer.com. It's listed at two places. You can go to book online and scroll in and find the link. It will say, Q&A with Deb, or you can go right to Astrologer's Thoughts, which is my blog page where all my blogs are. And the most recent blog has the link to join. Okay. So if you have questions, if you've been thinking about things and you have some ideas you'd like to share, please join us. The other thing is I will be having a look at 2026, which is called The Rebellion of Fire and Air. And that's going to be Tuesday, December 2nd, and that is also available on my website in those same two places to join me for that event. We do an event every year to discuss the year ahead. So this is an important moment when we get to look at next year, and I'm sure everybody has lots of questions and is very curious about where things are going to be changing, and there's lots of changes next year. So join me, please, on Tuesday, December 2nd. In the meantime, we have a lot going on, so let's talk about what's going on. When I left you last week, I was saying that there was a lot going on between this Chiron, Venus, Jupiter T-square that was happening today, and I think it's very interesting, and I had said that there would be some sort of, ouch moment, and then something that came out of it, or something that was going to soothe it or whatever. And I certainly had that in my life. And I'm wondering how everyone else is doing, because Venus opposite Chiron is not a fun aspect, and it can be complicated emotionally because we are experiencing something in the realm of wounds. And Chiron is the wounded healer. So we are possibly feeling wounded about something, or relive a wound from the past, or might be reminded of a wound, or are experiencing something that was, maybe a little difficult. And so for us here where I live, we had to say goodbye to a friend who's been living here on our property for 4 years and in Costa Rica for 5. He's from Brazil, and he was leaving. He resigned at his very big architecture job here, and he wanted to go back home to Brazil because his parents are getting older and he has a partner there. And so he's really needed to reconsider his life and take a big step and leave. And we were very sad about him leaving, because he was a very lovely part of our everyday life and family here where I live. And he really became part of that. And he was a great Brazilian cook. And so that was an ouch. And we were all teary. He was teary. I was teary. My friends were teary. Everybody was teary. But the lighter note of Jupiter came when he was being taken to the airport by another one of our friends who I haven't seen in a while, and she came here to pick him up. And I was so happy to see them, and we had a big hug because I hadn't seen her. And so she and I got to have lunch today and spend some time, and that was really great. So there was a silver lining to the gray cloud of losing our friend, who is going to stay on our family chat. But I don't know when we can see him again. We are all invited to Brazil, so maybe that'll be a good thing to do. Anyway, so that's today. And so this week we've got a lot of action. And the first thing is that last week you may remember that I was talking about Mercury, and Mercury was going to pass through the space, ending Scorpio into Sagittarius. That was going to touch all the outer planets, have a conversation with Uranus, and gonna come back and do this again 3 times because of its retrograde that starts a week from today, next Sunday. And what's happening is, Mars and Mercury were together at the end of Scorpio, and now Mars, which is a slower planet, is doing exactly what Mercury just did, leaving Scorpio, getting ready to push out of Scorpio and go into the same aspects with the outer planets as Mercury just did. Except Mars is punchier. Mercury is just information and conversation and networking, but Mars is punchier. So Mars tomorrow is going to make a trine to Neptune at 10:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And Mars is in Scorpio. It's going to be at the very end of Scorpio talking to Neptune in Pisces. Now, that can be a very nice aspect because it is a trine, but Mars and Neptune are traditionally a little bit tricky. So you want to be careful when you navigate this, because you can assert yourself in a way that is like open mouth, insert foot, or assert yourself in a way that offends someone without even realizing it, but also you want to understand what it means to come through the back door, because Mars and Neptune together can be a time when we have to assert ourselves in a very congenial way and make it look like we're not asserting ourselves at all. And that's what the Mars trine Neptune is. It's also good for creative activity, especially since they're both in water signs, inspiration, and you can use this energy to get juicy with your creativity. It's also a little romantic, a little sexy, because Mars is in Scorpio, and it's in its own sign, and Neptune is in its own sign as well. So this is actually really kind of pleasant. So I would use this energy for digging in and getting creative and using your skills and abilities, and it doesn't have to be at 10:59 p.m. tomorrow night. Remember, it's probably an aspect now, tomorrow, Tuesday, a little bit of Tuesday, because Tuesday Mars then starts to make other relationships. So the first thing is it trines Neptune. And then Mars is going to enter Sagittarius. And it is entering Sagittarius on Tuesday, the 4th, which is at 8:01 a.m. Eastern Time. And it's going into a fire sign. So it's leaving its own sign, but it's going into fire. And it likes fire. It's a fiery planet in a fiery sign. And Mars and Sag can be fun. So this is a nice, delightful slide from Scorpio into Sagittarius. However, Uranus is in Gemini, which is the opposite sign from Sagittarius, and Mars will oppose Uranus almost immediately. So this is, 8:01 a.m. It's going into Sag, and then 12:30 p.m., only 4.5 hours later, it opposes Uranus. So it's opposing Uranus, guys. Already tomorrow, the next day, absolutely. But the exactitude is 12:30 Eastern Time on Tuesday. This is where you want to be careful. Because Mars and Uranus are accidents and slips and, accidents that happen in a second. You slip in your kitchen, you're slicing something up in the kitchen also. Kitchen's a great place for accidents to happen, You could be slit your finger. You can get anything from a little slice to then actual blood or anything like this when we are dealing with Mars, Uranus, okay? You can have a car accident, but that doesn't mean that this is how the energy is going to play out for each and every one of us. Of course not. Not everybody has those things happen, but this is my cautionary warning to let you know that this is happening and you need to be super careful and conscious of what you're doing, okay? So you need to be careful in the kitchen. Don't rush. Don't rush in your car. Christmas traffic is already starting. It's only the early part of November. It's already starting. Be very conscientious of your actions. Mars is action. And this is, I can run that light. I can make that green. Because Mars is in Sagittarius, which is super confident. And then Uranus steps in and goes, surprise, because that's what Uranus is, surprise. And so we want to be very aware to not overdo it, to not try to slide and make that green even though it's turning yellow, to not rush the green that's still red, to be very aware of how you are interacting with friends too, because that could be a hot argument in a second. It's like, how did this escalate? It's Mars Uranus. Uranus will surprise you. It will escalate in a second. And so accidents, arguments, these are the things we want to avoid. Go exercise, go for a brisk walk, jump on your trampoline, go to the gym, use up the energy, be productive and creative. Don't lose your temper. Stay out of the past. Don't have an argument about the past. Don't even talk to yourself about the past, okay? Keep clean. Keep your thoughts clean. This is hot energy. And Uranus is in Gemini, and that's words. And sometimes words can slip out, and we want to take them back, and we can't. So please be mindful, cautious, conscientious, aware of how you use this energy. You can have a breakthrough, and that's the energy we want right now. It's a breakthrough. And on that note of breakthroughs, I want to tell you that there's a configuration in the sky right now with Mars. Before it gets to Sag, it's in a very nice grand trine with Neptune and Jupiter. So Mars, Jupiter, Neptune are making a very nice water trine, which is easy, flowing, creative, passionate energy. And then Pluto is in there making a wide opposition to Jupiter, but a sextile to both Neptune and Mars, and we call this a kite. So I can see the aspects drawn on my circle of my wheel, and they are in the configuration of a kite. And this is powerful energy, but it's good for a breakthrough. So breakthrough energy is available to us now. Start edging towards that. What can you do that can create a breakthrough? You know, maybe it's a breakthrough in your creative process. Maybe it's a breakthrough in your energy. Maybe it's a breakthrough moment where you are working on something meditatively and you're breaking through. And maybe you're working through something at work and you have a breakthrough. Anywhere this can appear, and it depends on where these planets land in your chart. So, of course, if you want to find out more about that, you can book a session with me, goldenastrologer.com, book online. And the thing is that when we're dealing with breakthrough energy, you could break a glass too. Be careful, sweep it up, vacuum. But you want to have some sort of powerful breakthrough that supports you and encourages you in your creativity and in your life, not something where you're going to punch somebody because they really irritated you. Okay, and that's that energy as well. We're aiming for a breakthrough, not a breakdown, not a breakup, and not a punch in the face. Okay? Okay, watch your words. Keep clean. The next thing is that Mars is going to continue to do what Mercury had done last week, and it's going to be making a nice conversation with Pluto exactly on Thursday, the 6th, at 10:11 a.m. And how lovely. Again, this is, I said Mars and Pluto were somewhat in sextile. Mars late Scorpio, Pluto early Aquarius, but this is now going to be an exact sextile on Thursday, and that helps, move things in a better direction. So I think these are positive aspects as long as we kind of keep our head and not go too fast. And if you've got a lot going on this week, there's a lot of energy going around this week astrologically. There, you could have projects. I've got lots of things going on myself. You could have projects where you need to step it up and you're in a little bit of a hurry or stress. Just stay mindful, okay? Mars Pluto can encourage a bit of transformation in an easy flow. So the planets are ripe for breakthrough. There is some breakthrough here going on that's very important. And we want to stay aware of it because it can really give you some new, fresh perspectives and ideas. We like this. So let's see where it takes us. Then Mars is going to finish its thing. It's going to keep moving in Sag, and that's good. And it will finish that cycle. It's not going to go retrograde like Mercury will, and so therefore it won't follow that same path of 3 times like Mercury does. So whatever you started last week, you're going to probably be working through during the retrograde and after, up until mid-December. This is now Mars, just an opportunity to sort of bust through some old patterns and keep moving past things that might be holding you back or what you feel are holding you back. So then Venus is going to leave her favorite sign of Libra on Thursday and enter Scorpio at 5:39 p.m. And so Venus is not at her favorite place in Scorpio. She's zesty and passionate, but she's also a little dark. And so this is where the dark goddess comes out this time of year, where we are in the place of, once again, as I mentioned last week, ancestors, and the place where the veil is thin between this world and the next. And I mentioned this on Instagram the other day as well, where you can indeed really feel connected to your ancestors right now and how they are maybe trying to contact you, or they're leaving little signs, breadcrumbs for you in your life. And it's important to pay attention to those things and the synchronicities that happen and any other little breadcrumbs that are being given to you by the cosmos and by sort of messages from the beyond, okay? Beyond the veil. So pay attention, tune in. There's lots going on right now astrologically, and this time of year when we're in Scorpio season, keep your ear to the ground, because we are able to hear things, words that are whispered to us from the ancestors, from our beloveds who have passed on. So, including ancestors we've never met. So, just stay tuned to that, listen carefully. And Venus, as dark goddess, is asking us to look at the shadow side of our relationships. Whatever is not clear to us, whatever tends to act through us without our conscious acknowledgement, whatever is in the subconscious realms, the recesses of our minds that tend to present a picture that perhaps we're not entirely wanting to see, or that we don't want presented to us in our lives. We want other types of pictures that are maybe prettier, but this is a good time to recognize your own shadow patterns in your relationships and work through them. And, Venus will be there for a little while before she goes into flirty, wild Sagittarius. So give yourself these weeks ahead to really connect with that other side of the relationships. And that's any relationship. That could be with your kids or any of your loved ones. Venus is the planet of love. But your money as well. Venus and Scorpio, that's money that you share with others, especially. So look at your shadow side of your financial situations. I know this is not exactly what everyone wants to do, but this is the useful energy. This is the practical side of Venus and Scorpio. It's better if you're being told a story by the world, by the universe, that something's not right and you go look at it, than if you just ignore it and just say, no, I'm going to go get what I want, which is Venus is in a fixed sign at the end of the week. So work with this energy. There are ways of doing it that you will come out unscathed and wiser. Okay. The other thing is that when Venus enters Scorpio, early Scorpio, that she does on Thursday, on Friday, she immediately squares Pluto at 10:44 p.m. Eastern time. So that's Pluto in Aquarius, which we know is in the very early part of Aquarius. So as soon as anything enters the beginning of a fixed sign, boom, it runs into Pluto. It just, makes that aspect, whether it's an opposition or a square or something. But yes, here we are with Venus, not only in Scorpio, but that's ruled by Pluto, but she's squaring Pluto. So this is a double dose of the Venus shadow principle. And we really want to pay attention to that. And, triangles in our relationships, that's something very powerful that can happen with Venus Pluto energy, especially when it's in a challenge like that. So you want to be aware of it. And how this sort of plays out in your life, and if it indeed plays out in your relationships or financially, or how it actually works. So watch for that. Other big stuff that's happening Friday is that Uranus, that I was just saying is in Gemini, and that's going to get an opposition from Mars earlier in the week. Uranus will go back into Taurus because Uranus is retrograde, And it's going to be retrograde till early February, and it's going to go back into Taurus 9:22 p.m. on Friday the 7th. And so that Uranus in Taurus energy is, what we've been experiencing for the last 7 years or so. And so this is a very interesting moment, because this is going to be Uranus's last passage through Taurus before it goes into Gemini next April. And it stays there for 7 years. So it's dipped a toe in Gemini. Earlier this year it went in, I think it was July, and then now this week it's stepping out. When after the retrograde that started in September, it's moved back through the beginning of Gemini, now going back into the end of Taurus. So it's got unfinished business in the world of Taurus, which is security, money, financial matters, bank accounts, investments, all the things you may have been experiencing over the last 7 years. And how you feel about money, how your money has been used, were you smart with your money, and how Uranus has shaken up the realm of security and the realm of Taurus, because it's giving us a different perspective in the area of our chart that contains Taurus. And so that's really important, because Taurus is a very fixed sign. It's the most fixed of all the fixed signs. And when you throw a planet in there like Uranus, you're now saying, okay, get unstuck here. Wherever you're holding on for dear life and you don't want to let go, and you're insecure about letting go. That's what Uranus's aim and goal has been over these 7 years. Okay, just when you thought it was safe to go back to that area of your chart, no, Uranus says, surprise, and something different is being presented to you in that region of your chart. So say you have Taurus on the 10th house cusp, which is maybe the midheaven, and the 10th house, it's your vocation. What is your vocation? Is your vocation the same, or were you presented with something else? Or are you still being presented with something else? This is the nature of Uranus's energy. It just provides a different perspective. It causes us to be innovative, a little more creative, and have to let go of something that maybe was secure for us and perhaps a little too comfortable for us. Taurus loves comfort. It's all about the comfort food, the comfort in the house, the comfort in one's life. And so when you might have been a little too comfortable with the way things were, Uranus came in and said, you can't be comfortable anymore. And so it's time to get out of your, cobwebs and shake it up and do something a little different. And so when Uranus moves through the end of Taurus from now, this Friday, to the end of April, then we have all these months. This is quite a bit of months. That's 4 months in the new year, November, December, that's 6 months, 5 months. I think it's like 5.5 months. This is almost half a year. And so we've got quite a while before Uranus finally finishes Taurus and goes into Gemini, where we're going to have all sorts of ideas, right? So that's an important thing, an important perspective to have. Gain some distance from where you've been holding on so tight and allow yourself to experience something else and get a little more innovative about things, okay? Because that's what Uranus loves, just taking risks, being innovative, trying different stuff. And even if you tried different things and it's not really sticking, keep going. We've got more months until that big idea starts to happen when Uranus goes into Gemini and our brains are flooded with information. And then Sunday, as I said, Mercury goes retrograde. So Mercury will retrograde in Sagittarius, and it's about 6 degrees of Sagittarius, and then it will eventually go back into Scorpio. So this is important to pay attention to, because if you have planets at early Sag or planets affected by early Sag, they will be triggered as you experience Mercury sort of stationing there, stopping in the sky at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, and then moving back into the early part of Sagittarius, then back into Scorpio. It will go direct on the 29th of November. So it's 20 days. that it will be retrograde, which is, like I said last week, a good amount of time, not too much, not like 23 days, 24 days, as sometimes Mercury retrograde is. But we have to do our Mercury retrograde homework and step back into looking at where we've been these last weeks, what's occurred for us, and what we need to reevaluate, reconsider, review, rewind, reread, and reconnect with. Okay? Last year, Mercury went retrograde in Sagittarius also, but it was later in the year. It was, in December, late November, December. And what it did was it hovered, went all the way back to about 6 or 8 degrees, and then went forward again. So it's picking up where it kind of left off last year, except it's going to be earlier in Sagittarius that all of this happened. So I think it was like 13 or 15 Sag. It went retrograde and then went a bit backwards and then came back over that spot again. So it hovered all of December. And I remember feeling that very intensely. And if that is that Sagittarius point is a bit of a zone for you in your chart, you may have a hint of what you went through last year, but not quite, because Mercury won't be going as far and covering the same territory as it did. So there may be a little bit of, I remember this one last year, but that's about it. Because Mercury is going to go back into Scorpio. So we're looking at where we've been in these last weeks. And like I said, Mercury is going to touch all those outer planets again, make an opposition to Uranus, but this time from Scorpio to Taurus, not from Sagittarius to Gemini. And so things will have changed in the sky by the time Mercury goes retrograde, which is pretty fascinating, because there's a story that started last week, like I mentioned, but they won't be the same details in that story that might have presented itself to you last week. So if this sounds a little confusing, let's walk through this over these next weeks and watch how this story plays out. And we are going to get some very interesting dynamics here with Mercury. Mercury has a lot of information for us as it goes retrograde. So just stay aware and pay attention during this retrograde, which is going to be, okay, so we're in the first week of November coming up here. It's going to be those last 3 weeks of November, which is most of November. So, and also, if you're going to start your holiday festivities and holiday shopping, be aware of what you're getting for people, because Mercury is going to go direct, and then we're really going to be in December. And you might want to wait until December, unless you shop this week, because it's not a good, you might buy something under Mercury retrograde and they go, I already have this. Or somebody else gave me this. Or I've got 3 of these this year, or I just bought myself this. Because that's what Mercury retrograde does. So if you buy something as a gift this year for someone during the Mercury retrograde, you may have to take it back. So just be aware of what you're doing, and unless you're positive that they don't have it. Just be aware of what you're doing and how you're working with things. And again, mind your thoughts. Pay attention. Stay aware. Don't open your mouth and regret later what you said. So just be mindful and keep your mouth quiet in these days, if that's what is the necessary step and course of action. And just be aware of words, and try not to gossip, because Mercury can be a gossip and it might get you in trouble. Okay, so you want to be careful with that. Jupiter is going to go retrograde on the 11th, which is the Tuesday after this. So it's not this week, but the early part of next week. We'll talk about that more on next week's broadcast. But, Jupiter will be stationing as Uranus is stepping back into Taurus and Mercury is going retrograde. There's a lot of backwards energy happening. So that's interesting, because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and if Jupiter is going to station and go retrograde as Mercury is going retrograde in Jupiter's sign, that's a double caution for being careful about your words, okay? Don't be overly indulgent with your words either, okay? And if you are interested in joining me in my Q&A this week, so you can connect with me, you can write to me if you just want me to directly send you the link, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, deb@debmcbride.com. You can also DM me on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer. You can book yourself into the Q&A or the year ahead look on for 2026 and back when we have it in December. And you can go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and click book online, and you will find all the choices of booking the 2 classes, taking time to have an astrology session with me, looking at the year ahead for yourself. Very important as we move into 2026. Astrology makes a great gift certificate. I have gift certificate offerings on my website. You can find them if you click book online. I also have card readings available, tarot, alchemy, and archetype readings. You can book a Reiki session with me. Wonderful 5D Reiki that will enlighten you and clear out old obstacles and clear up your energy. And also, if you want to go longer term with me, there's expansion mentoring, which is 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and we can really dig in deep to these new changes that we're going to be having in the new year. Big stuff coming. So you are welcome to book anything with me, and also write to me at my website to find out more about them if you need more details. Thank you so much for listening. Have a beautiful week ahead. Watch that Mars-Uranus. Use your energy wisely. Have a breakthrough and have a beautiful week. Gratitude to all for listening.